Hey guys, welcome back to Beauty and the Beasts, the place where I do my skincare or makeup while sharing spooky stories, so you can chill with me and get the chills at the same time. And as you can probably tell, the background is a bit different tonight. That's because I just moved to Malaysia from South Korea and I'm still getting settled in. My studio isn't set up yet. This is a temporary place and my products and my beauty products are still on the way. So tonight, I will skip the skincare, beauty care part and just focus on today's story. Just for tonight, yeah. But don't worry, I still brought the horror because tonight's story, it's super creepy. We're diving into a true tale from Indonesia about one of the most famous dangdut singing competitions on TV. And no, I'm not talking about backstage drama or petty rivalries. I'm talking about actual curses, possessions, and contestants collapsing on stage during live broadcasts. Yeah, with spirits that might have been lurking in the studio long before the cameras ever rolled. So grab your skincare products, your tea, or just a blanket to hide under. Let's get into today's story. Have you ever watched a singing competition? Those glossy shows with bright lights, screaming fans, dramatic pauses, and emotional confessions. Yeah, like The Voice, America's Got Talent, and their versions all over the world. But have you ever thought about what might be hiding beneath all that glamour? That maybe, while the crowd claps and the judges laugh, something else is watching. Something that doesn't sit in the audience. Tonight's story comes from Gilang Durga. He is an Indonesian comedian, host, and an impressionist who could make anyone laugh. But beneath that funny exterior, Gilang has something else, something few people know. He is sensitive, spiritually sensitive. So this particular story, he shared on podcast Malam Kliwon, and even though he changed a few names, everyone in the comments figured it out right away. Because the show he was talking about was one of the most watched programs on Indonesian television. So this show, it aired on Indosiar, a dangdut singing competition. Now, for those who don't know, dangdut is a beloved genre in Indonesia. It blends local traditional sounds, Indian rhythms, Melayu influences, and the deep pulsing beat of the gendang drum. This competition was huge. People from all backgrounds tuned in every night, like clockwork. 6:30 p.m., the country paused. Each episode featured around 5 to 10 contestants, but the runtime, it was nearly 6 hours long. So the show was basically packed with jokes from the hosts, skits from the judges, fan interactions, guest performances. So it had everything, like laughter, drama, tears, everything. But no one expected that the fame, the obsession, the fandom could lead to something darker, a curse. So like many old studios, Indosiar's had its rumors, whispers, like stories passed around during late night shoots. One studio in particular had a reputation. Some crew members said they saw things during overnight tapings, shadows moving where no one stood, cold drafts in sealed rooms. And the stories, they always came back to one figure, the Kuntilanak, the infamous woman in white. She's not just any ghost, she's one of the most feared in Southeast Asia. So in Indonesia, they say she was a woman who died during childbirth or was betrayed, hurt, left to die with deep sorrow or rage in her heart. She wears a long, flowing white dress. Her hair is black, tangled, and so long it covers most of her face. She doesn't walk, she floats. And when she's near, you don't always see her, but you feel her. A sudden drop in temperature, a floral scent like jasmine or frangipani, followed by an eerie, high-pitched laugh that doesn't sound fully human. In Malaysia and Singapore, she is known as the Kuntilanak. But in Indonesia, everyone knows her name, and everyone knows she doesn't show herself unless she wants to be seen. And if she does, it is already too late. One night, before the live show started, before the fans had even entered the venue, Gilang and a few other celebrities were backstage, waiting for their cue. Everything seemed normal until he saw the floor director, usually a high-energy guy making sure everything runs like clockwork. But not this time. He wasn't moving. He wasn't checking the lights, the audience, the cues. He was just staring, like up, toward the ceiling. And Gilang followed his eyes, and there was a long lamp hanging from the rafters, and it was swinging back and forth. But this wasn't the wind. This wasn't a tremor. It moved like a playground swing, smooth, rhythmic, like someone was sitting on it, riding it, watching from above, watching the crowd gathering below, watching the show, maybe even enjoying the music. Gilang knew what the floor director was probably thinking. So to ease the tension and maybe calm whatever it was that might be listening, he called out to him with a little smile. Hey, it's okay. She just wanted to play for a little. Don't bother her, and she won't bother us. The floor director nodded quietly and went back to work like nothing happened. But the air in the studio, it stayed heavy. Now, fast forward to one of the most watched seasons of the show, Lida 1, back in 2018. There was this one girl. Her name was Selfie, and from the very first episode, people noticed her. She had this voice that made people stop whatever they were doing. Beautiful, soft, powerful. Her looks, cute and warm. But it wasn't just about talent or appearance. She had heart, especially loved by the older crowd. Her kindness, her sense of humor, people connected with her. So naturally, many wanted her to win. But just as many wanted her to fail. And one night, during one of the most important stages of the competition, everything changed. Right before she was about to go on stage, Selfie was joking around with the MC. She smiled. She looked completely normal. No sign of fear. No stress. No sickness. Every single day, the crew worked hard to make sure every contestant was healthy, ready, and in their best condition to perform. But what happened on that stage shocked everyone. Mid-song, right in the middle of her performance, Selfie collapsed. No warning, no wobble, no scream. She dropped like someone had flipped a switch. 1 second she was singing, the next she was on the ground. The studio erupted, screams, people yelling for help, staff running, and the live broadcast was immediately cut to commercials. To calm viewers at home, Gilang and the other MCs came back on air and said Selfie wasn't feeling well and that she would be resting for the night. But backstage, the truth was baffling. Paramedics checked her, but her vitals were normal. No injury, no explanation. So someone on the crew did something they'd only do when things got really strange. They called a spiritualist. The man came in quietly, and he did his rituals. After a moment of silence, he said Selfie had been cursed, not necessarily by a fellow contestant, but by someone who didn't want her to win. Some rolled their eyes, thought maybe the spiritualist was just trying to add drama. But the thing is, this wasn't the first time. It had happened before, exactly 1 year earlier. Now, most people outside Indonesia might not know dangdut, but in Southeast Asia, where the musical roots run deep across borders, many understood it and even grew to love it. So when the demand grew, Indosiar expanded the show. It took it international and brought in contestants from all over Southeast Asia. By season 3, which aired around 2017, the stakes were higher than ever. Singers from across the region came ready to win. The energy backstage was intense. The competition was brutal. And in that kind of high-pressure environment with millions watching, who's to say what kind of energy started stirring in the background? One day, Gilang was hosting the show again, this time alongside his partner, Irfan Hakim. Like always, they waited patiently at the side of the stage while the judges gave their feedback, pros, cons, advice to each contestant. But something felt off. Like even before stepping on stage, Gilang had felt something. The strange sensation, like eyes watching him. Not from the crowd, not from the cameras, from the dark, somewhere just outside his line of sight. And the strange thing is, he didn't know it at the time, but Irfan felt it too. He just brushed it off, told himself it was just nerves or maybe his imagination playing tricks on him. But then, while they were standing off stage, waiting, they locked eyes at the exact same time. They both said the same name, Dadang. The word came out of their mouth like someone had whispered it straight into their ears, like not a second apart. They looked at each other, stunned. They tried to shake it off. Maybe it was just coincidence. Maybe because Dadang was next in line to perform, his name had been on their minds, maybe. But what happened next proved otherwise. It was around 9 p.m. The competition was at its peak. The studio was buzzing. People had just seen incredible performances. The energy was high, and all eyes were on the next contestant, Dadang. So this Dadang, it's not his real name by the way, was the man everyone thought would win. Before he walked on stage, Gilang and Irfan pulled him aside, just to be sure. "Are you okay?" they asked. "Do you feel anything strange, sick?" But Dadang smiled and said, "No, I'm okay." So he went out onto the stage. The spotlight hit, the crowd clapped, and he sang beautifully, flawlessly. Everyone was mesmerized. And Gilang and Irfan exhaled in relief. Maybe it was just their imagination. But then came the judging session, and that's when the nightmare began. Dadang, who just moments ago looked strong and confident, suddenly froze. His face changed, his eyes wide, searching. He looked at Gilang and Irfan as if silently calling out for help. His mouth wouldn't move properly, his breathing shallow, and his body, he couldn't move it, not an inch. It was as if he had turned into a statue. He finally managed to whisper, barely, "Help, I can't move my joints." The MCs rushed to him, held him up, helped carry him off the stage with the crew's assistance. Backstage, they tried to explain it to the audience. They told the viewers Dadang wasn't feeling well. But backstage, it got worse. Now he wasn't just stiff. He was struggling to breathe. Oxygen masks were brought in. Doctors checked him over thoroughly. And yet, nothing was wrong. His body was working fine. No signs of injury, nothing unusual on the scans. But Dadang kept repeating it. "I can't move. My joints, I can't move." The show had to go on. So during the scoring session, Dadang had to video call from backstage just to receive his results. But he wasn't the only one hit that night. another contestant, this time a girl from another country, we will call her A. She also performed perfectly. She had presence, a beautiful voice. Everyone loved her. But when it was her turn to face the judges, she suddenly began to struggle. Her breathing turned shallow. She was rushed backstage too, and while she wasn't in as critical condition as Dadang, her nightmare wasn't over. This thing followed her back to the hotel. That night, she screamed in her room, kicked the air, tried to scratch her own father who had come to comfort her. Eventually, a group gathered. They started to pray, and slowly, she calmed down. But even then, it wasn't just her. Several fans who had attended the live show that night began feeling nauseous. One of the staff finally consulted a spiritualist, and according to him, that night, someone had been cursed. But according to the spiritualist, that person had long devoted himself to God. So the curse hadn't fully reached him. Instead, it hit others nearby. So the spiritualist performed a cleansing after the show ended. And for several days, the entire studio held mass prayers, hoping to reset the energy to keep whatever darkness was creeping in out. Before the next night's performance, Gilang pulled Dadang aside. He told him, just keep praying, no matter what. Just keep praying. And thankfully, nothing happened. But, of course, that feeling, the whispers, the name Dadang in both their ears, that heavy, watching presence backstage, Gilang never forget it. Later, he thought maybe it was the spirit who already resided in the studio, a protective spirit, one that didn't want something darker invading her space. Maybe the whisper had been a warning, but who knows? What do you think? If you were in Gilang's shoes, would you believe the voice? Or would you just brush it off as your imagination? Maybe it was just stress. And have you ever heard stories like these? Dark secrets hiding behind your favorite TV shows. So the next time you're watching your favorite talent show, clapping along, laughing at the judges' jokes, admiring the performances, just remember, not everyone in the studio might be there to enjoy the music. Some are only watching. And not because they want to be entertained, but because they never left. They're still there, in the rafters, in the corners the cameras never catch, waiting for someone to forget a prayer or to let their guard down. Okay, that's all for tonight, and I hope you like the story. And if you've ever had a story like this, a moment that chilled you to your bones, feel free to send it to me. I'd love to share your scary experience too. Okay, thanks so much for watching today's show. Sleep well tonight, and bye.